Well, welcome everyone. We're so glad that you've joined us today at the winter virtual conference here at Wisconsin Literacy. And we're just about ready to get started as you're all coming in from the waiting room. But I want to remind you that Wisconsin Literacy is a statewide coalition of 70 literacy agencies. We strengthen literacy through professional development opportunities, personalized consultation, health literacy, workforce connections, and networking and advocacy. And if you were with us at the first session, that was one of the things Michelle talked about, was advocacy. So good afternoon, and welcome to welcoming our community of adult learners into their workplaces, sponsored by Wisconsin Literacy. I'm happy to welcome our presenters from Literacy Services and the Latino Academy, as well as their partners. So let's start with Holly McCoy from Literacy Services. If you would introduce yourself and your partners.
Absolutely. Thanks, Marcia. So hello, everyone. I'm Holly McCoy. I'm the Executive Director with Literacy Services of Wisconsin. Lots of literacy, lots of Wisconsin today, not to be confused with Wisconsin Literacy, who is our dear partner. So I have two partners with me today from WRTP Big Step. I'm going to be talking a little bit more about our partnership, and they'll talk a little bit more about what they do. But I'm going to pass it over to Tony to introduce herself, and then we'll hear a little bit from Jacob.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Tony White. I am the Chief Operations Officer at WRTP Big Step, or Wisconsin Regional Training Partnership. And we partner with Literacy Services of Wisconsin in some programming. So this will be our opportunity to showcase what we can do and what you can do in the same similar situation. I will pass it along to our director for WRTP.
Just want to thank everyone for attending today. Good afternoon. My name is Jacob Walton. I'm the Milwaukee Regional Director here at WRTP Big Step. We've been partnering with Literacy Services for a good 5 years now on these programs to help individuals get their high school equivalency diploma credentials, while also being able to enter the workforce in a meaningful way. And I look forward to you guys hearing more about those programs from Holly and Tony. So without further ado, Ms. Holly McCoy.
Thanks, Jacob. Time flies when you're having fun. All right. So Literacy Services of Wisconsin, I think most of you on the call know, but I know we have people from all over the state. So just so we're all on the same page, Literacy Services of Wisconsin provides several different programs. Today, we're going to be really focusing on our IET programs that we offer in partnership with WRTP Big Step. But definitely these are our stats from last program year. And we do provide adult education, which I'm going to show our comprehensive services model in a second, which kind of led to how we became partners with WRTP in the first place. But we do have 8 Milwaukee and southeastern Wisconsin locations. So we're located in downtown. We partner with Milwaukee Public Schools. We're at North and South Division High School. We're also at Silver Spring Neighborhood Center, where they're adult education provider on the northwest side. We're in downtown Waukesha. We're also located on site at the Milwaukee County Jail. And then we work with WRTP Big Step to offer programming at Racine Correctional Institution and Racine Youthful Offender Center. And I'm sure I forgot a location in there if you were counting on your fingers, but you get the gist. So we go where our students need us to go, and we do what our students need us to do. Our model is ever evolving and ever changing. And really, we approach adult education from the lens of every adult comes to us with whatever it is their goal is. And it is our duty and ethic responsibility. responsibility to make sure that we're moving students through in a way that honors their time as adults, provides them with rigor, and then also connects them to whatever it is that next step is towards whatever the goal is. For those of you in adult education, you know that a lot of our students have varying goals. So while we may not tell students like what they're there to do and they're telling us, we do have a model that ensures that we're leading our students towards essentially what most of our students come as one of their like outlying goals. So you'll see at the bottom of this chart, most of our students are looking to enter post-secondary education. They want additional training, a lot of interest in apprenticeships, especially in the last few years. And I think WRTP, when they talk about what they've been doing, I know Tony, really what they're doing is leading the way in our state, and it's being recognized nationally, and it's really cool, I think. And then employment or reentry. So I mentioned some of the corrections work that we're also doing just to ensure that we're building bridges for students while they may be incarcerated, and creating community connections for that reentry time as well. So we offer education at all levels, NRS levels, and really make sure that we're providing supportive services for students. You'll also see our pre-apprenticeship HSED is very broad. We're going to talk a little bit more specifically about what that means with a lot of acronyms that will probably make your head hurt. But at the end of the day, it's really about the programming. So just keeping it a little bit simple. So this is another context setter. And for some of you on the call, you already know this, but the Wisconsin Department of Public Instruction has public instruction codes that are written into our legislation that allow adult education programs to offer programming that's more competency-based versus the standardized tests that are often offered through other programs or through the GED. So my biggest question I always get is, Holly, what's the difference between an HSED and a GED? Here in the state of Wisconsin, and that can mean something different depending on what state you're from, but here in the state of Wisconsin, essentially what that means is that we're offering a state-approved program, and we have to work through DPI to get that program approved. And our HSED is a competency-based 509 program. So 509 is the public instruction code. And the Wisconsin Technical College System is sort of our standard because they are our Title II provider in the state. So all of the Title II funding for Adult Education and Family Literacy Act funding goes through the Wisconsin Technical College. And so we as an organization really use them to determine what is our baseline for standard and quality. And then we're actually measured on our standard based on how we perform on that grant, right? So it's DPI, it's the Wisconsin Technical College System, and we sort of have worked with both those partners to create a really awesome 509 HSED program for adults here in the state. And when we had initially developed this program, it was just supposed to be a college readiness program. And then over the years, it's really evolved to allow us to work with partners like WRTP and ensure that our 509 program is also offering our adult students the opportunity to earn their high school diploma while they're learning skills in a specific career track that interests them. So I'm going to hand it over to Tony to talk a little bit more about the longest acronym you'll ever hear.
Thank you, Holly. So what this allowed us to do was to think about how we can partner in a career-specific way. So WRTP stands for Wisconsin Regional Training Partnership. Big STEP is Building Industry Group Skilled Trades Employment Program. So these two acronyms is what make up WRTP Big STEP. A large part of our work in WRTP is around manufacturing. A large part of our work in the Big STEP space is around construction. Those are two industries that are very warm and welcoming at an entry-level career pathway that will help you sustain some items as far as family sustaining wages and being able to hit the ground running and be able to progress wage-wise as well as career-wise from an entry level to advanced skill placement. Our mission is to enhance the ability of public and private sector organizations to recruit, develop, and retain. I think what's critical here is diverse, qualified workforce in construction and manufacturing and emerging sectors in our economy. Diverse and qualified workforce is very important for us because the workforce as we know it is not the same anymore. And those entering into the workforce are entering at different levels. So we want to make sure that we're providing ample opportunity for individuals to be able to get on the career pathways of choice, at least the ones in construction and manufacturing, regardless of if they have a high school diploma or not. But the goal is to get them there as expeditiously as we can so that they can start to enter those career pathways and really excel in those pathways as they move on in their career of choice. So I think what's important here is for us to understand that workforce is changing. Our employers have needs. We are here to meet those needs, but at various levels during the career pathway of an individual. So that is what makes up our integrated education and training program so that we can ensure that people have the skills necessary to get on the job sooner than later. It used to be a linear process. You get your high school diploma and then you do. Now it's an and. So it's being able to collaborate where they're able to work on those both simultaneously, their academic skills and their occupational skills at the same time.
So Tony actually worked for our local workforce investment board. So I feel like she is definitely versed in the titles better than I am at certain points. But essentially, integrated education and training, you'll hear that term a lot. I think Baltazar will talk a little bit about that as well. The definition is below, and I stole it from COABE, but I cited them. So just so we're clear. But typically WRTP is what we would consider a Title I program under the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act. And then as I already mentioned, Literacy Services is considered a Title II program. And the cool thing about both of our programs is that we both offer caseworkers on site at our organizations that are through our local contracted kind of workforce folks who can provide students with the funding and the case management to attend and participate in these trainings. So Tony, do you want to say anything else about that?
Yeah, so I just want to say that understanding the Title I and Title I process, we are on our statewide eligible training provider listing at separately as entities, but together as entities as well. So our partnership runs really intimately to help each other in that space. But even when you talk about that training concurrently and contextually, that is really important when you're trying to develop a workforce program alongside a academic enhancement program. So I think it's very important. So as Holly has said, when looking at trying to come together with a training provider and academic support, the ability to have case management and understand WIOA is very important, and to have that case management support at the time when those trainings are happening really makes the difference in the streamlined process and the customer's experience to be more successful.
Yeah, and what I love about our partnership, and we're going to talk more about the details in just a second, is that we both are staying in our lane. So I think too often for nonprofit organizations as a whole, we all consistently talk about funding and resources and all of these things. You know, WRTP is the experts in what they do. Literacy Service is the experts in what we do. And we've really taken the best of both worlds to figure out how to work together for our students and for our local workforce. And we'll talk a little bit more too about like what that means and how that's expanded over the last couple of years. But it definitely is in the best interest of the students. And then also would just say transparently that it also requires a lot of getting to know not only the organization that we're working with, but the people as well. Because I need to be able to call Tony when I have a question or an issue and vice versa. And so there is a lot of time that's went into this, but this partnership has been just tremendous for the reason that we all exist, right? Which is to make things better in our community. And so I really love our partnership. So let's talk about why we even came together in the first place. Tony, you want to talk a little bit more about this?
Yes, so one of the requirements for you to become an apprentice is you have to have a high school diploma. And which is, we are we do assessments to determine what are barriers to people moving forward in a career pathway. And this was one of them. So we were like, okay, how do we come together to determine how do we get someone who may have had to make a choice early on in their life where they were unable to finish your traditional high school. So the 509 DPI program just was ideal because you can get somebody there quicker and get them started on their apprenticeship pathway if that's where they want to go faster. So it really was one of those things where it was an issue and a solution amongst our partnership all in one when we came together. So that made it awesome. As we all know, everybody needs all of the 17 skilled trades. We all need a plumber. We all need an electrician. Those jobs are always needed because they're always building and we're humans building it. So there's always going to be repair, so it's almost like similar to the healthcare industry. We need to make sure that our buildings are strong and solid, roads are strong and solid. So we need to make sure we're putting people into those jobs because those jobs are here to stay. There is always a Southeast Wisconsin construction boom. I mean, there was things happening all the way around, happening with the roads, happening with building, happening with growth and development in our major cities in the Southeast area. So it only made sense for us to find, local workers who needed that work and local employers who needed workers. So it made sense. But we wanted to align with a partner who was good at what they were doing, which was LSW, to have career specific programming for students. So we worked together closely on the curriculum and making sure that we can contextualize it in a way that made sense for not just us as the nonprofit individuals who can do this work, but also for the employers. So we are an industry led. Our board consists of representatives from a lot of the different trades. So they tell us what is needed, and then we modify our curriculum to meet that need, but also we understand this was the initial barrier. So we had to come up with a barrier remediation solution, and this partnership has helped us do that. So that was the why.
Thanks, Tony. All right. So this is a really text heavy slide. So I'm not going to read it all. But essentially, our partnership started with what we call our MC3HSED. And that is a big acronym. But basically, MC3 is the National Building and Trades curriculum that is recognized. And it is also a recognized credential through ITA. Well, not anymore, ETPL. But the gist of this is we took WRTP's MC3 curriculum, which they were already offering, and we looked at our HSED that we were already offering, and we did a competency analysis to say, when students are doing this part of the curriculum with WRTP, it's already meeting the requirement that we have on this part of our HSED curriculum. And then what we did with the time that we no longer had to spend on that thing in HSED is we provided additional support to students who may have questions about the MC3 curriculum. So we provide additional support, if a question comes up about a term, or if there's something in math that they aren't quite getting. And so our instructor is very responsive to those needs. And when we first started offering this program, our instructors attended as many of the other classes as they possibly could, so they could see what students were learning in the one class and then adjust what we were going to do in the following weeks accordingly. So it's a pretty heavy lift for students, and we definitely honor and recognize that. But the cool thing is students are invested and willing to put in the time for this program because they are doing two things at once. They need their high school diploma, they get introduced to the building trades, and we're doing it all at the same time versus asking them to take sequential programs, right? So it's been a really cool partnership for sure. Tony, do you want to just give a little bit of an overview of MC3?
Yeah, so the multi-craft core curriculum covers, so that's what MC3 stands for. As we say, we'll learn a lot of acronyms, but it covers, as you can see, each one of these units, it's what's covered. The curriculum it's rigorous and it's comprehensive, and they end the curriculum with credentials. This particular full-fledged curriculum is from the National Association of Building Trades and Unions. They endorse this. So this is why we selected, WRTP selected this curriculum to follow, is because all of the National Building Trades and Unions have endorsed this curriculum to say, if someone goes through this program, then they are, have successfully completed a pre-apprenticeship program. And some of the trades have said, if you do this, then we'll go ahead and put you into apprenticeships directly. So at least they start not from the beginning, but they have some content and some context in the construction field already. So these are the items. One of the things that has a good crosswalk is basic math for construction. Well, you need math for HSED as well. So, and then you have financial literacy, which is an add-on. We also have green construction, which is an add-on too. So the coursework is heavy for someone, but it's enough to get them properly prepared for the workforce. So it is an apprenticeship readiness program alongside, and then we move forward and as additional services after someone has completed is help them apply for apprenticeship. And also the second half of what we do as WRTP Big Step is get you to and through apprenticeship. So it's the whole full gamut of what's offered, but we start with this program. And so we have been successful in making sure that people receive their HSED alongside their credentials for construction.
I'm muted. So in summary, literacy services is the high school equivalency diploma, so that HSED. We also do the civics exam prep and the contextualized instruction. WRTP Big Step is the MC3 credential, the CPR, OSHA 10, and then occasionally to Jacob, who's on the call, and we might have questions to answer at the end about that, will also put in specialized trainings. So maybe there's a need for, I don't know.
Holly, thanks. So there's times when we put like a flagger training in there because that's road building specific. So it depends upon what employers are soon to hire that we know that are in the industry, and our relationship with the unions and the contractors. We kind of know what their needs are ahead of time. So we will add extra based upon how we go about which employers are hiring at that time for what specific trades. So that is typically when we add what we call specialized training. So there's other modules that we can add to MC3 in order to cater to certain type of trades versus one over the other. If there's forklift certification that they need, or skidster training, or it just really kind of depends. We add and take away. But it still is at a level that is approvable by the state, WIOA, and NAB2.
Thank you, Tony.
No problem.
All right, so I'm gonna stop share real quick, and then I'm gonna reshare a video that I wanna show y'all. Hopefully it pops up. All right, I need to get out of this. Went a little bit smoother when I did it the first time. Why is this not popping up? There we go. So this video was made a while ago, but I'm showing it because I think it gives a great visual for some of you who might be thinking about this a little bit more, and actually walks through with some of our first students from our very first cohort how this program impacted them. So I'm going to show it to you now.
TP Big Step.
Literacy Services of Wisconsin is a 50-plus-year-old organization that serves adults with a full range of adult education programs, from low-level readers all the way up to people earning their high school diploma or beyond. We also work with English language learners from more than 50 countries around the world.
WRTP Big Step is an industry-led, worker-centered, community-focused workforce development intermediary. We provide programs and services that connect people to jobs and apprenticeships in the manufacturing and construction sectors. WRTP Big Step is built on the premise of partnership and collaboration. When we found out that Literacy Services had the capacity to build curriculum, we realized that we could overlap the kind of programming that we offer in terms of apprenticeship readiness in the construction sector with those needed skills in order to achieve a high school diploma.
So the program is a high school equivalency diploma program coupled with the MC3 program training for construction workers. The thing that's really special about this particular partnership and collaboration is that we are able to take two distinct programs that typically are done sequentially and bring them together as one program and streamline that time. For people who have all kinds of things to juggle in their lives, it just makes it more possible for them to be successful.
What I hope to gain from the experience was my education and a better career, and to be able to make a decent wage, to be able to support myself and my family. My family is very proud of me. 2 months after graduating from this MC3 program, I got an opportunity to work at the Bucks Arena, and things been going well. I'm just excited just to see what avenues and doors and everything it opened up for me.
It's our intention moving forward to grow this partnership and expand this program. This year we're expecting to run 3 cohorts of about 10 people apiece, so that's 30 more people in this community who will have their high school diploma and be able to access a career.
You can take expertise of one organization and expertise of another and bring them together in a streamlined offering that really meets a community need. Makes this a really powerful opportunity for our community.
As nonprofits in Milwaukee, we have to keep trying to look at what we're doing and innovate and find those relationships that make us stronger, that make us able to deliver on our mission in a more meaningful way.
All right, friends, patience while I just go back to our PowerPoint. Start from here. All right. So I actually forgot to put a bullet point on here that I realized as I was giving my intro, but y'all will catch it. I'm just going to tell you what it was anyways. But so where are we now? So we have expanded our model to enhance Employ Milwaukee's Youth Build program. So Employ Milwaukee works with, that's our local workforce investment board. Sometimes that can be confusing. I just want to clarify that for people who don't live in Milwaukee. That's our local workforce investment board. So they offer through the Department of Labor a youth build program, and WRTP and LSW partner to offer essentially the MC3 HSED to those youth build participants. And for those who need to earn their high school diploma, which is one of the main goals of a youth build program, it's such a cool thing because before it had to be offered separate, and now, much like we just talked about, it can be offered together. So we've seen the graduation rate for that particular program here locally just increase quite a bit. And we really believe it's because we are doing this in a more streamlined way, and we're really proud of that. We also were honored by the U.S. Department of Education as an innovative practice. So that was really cool. And for as nerdy as I get, probably one of the highlights of my career because I've been so involved in this program. And so it was cool to see it get recognized in that way. And then we also received an equitable recovery grant from the state of Wisconsin to implement what is going to be our manufacturing arm of this program. So we're going to be offering an MSSC HSED, more acronyms for all of our lives, but essentially to prepare students for the manufacturing spaces. And then we also are working with the Department of Corrections to think more intentionally about the educational programming that they're able to offer. And that is the Racine Correctional Institution and Racine Youthful Offender Center. So lots of really interesting things that have come from this partnership. Tony, anything you want to add on this particular slide before we go into impact on the workforce?
No, I think you said it all.
All right. I just forgot a bullet. I'm sorry. All right, Tony, take it away.
So I just want to say a lot of people are like, how does that help? How does that aid and assist not just the employers, but the local workforce? I think as Holly has mentioned, I've been on both sides, having previously worked for the Workforce Board before I came over to WRTP. I've been on both sides of that. And the Workforce Board has definitely benefited from our partnership, WRTP and LSW. I think it just definitely helps increase the number of individuals that get their HSED, which opens up doors, as we all know, into what's next, post-secondary, vocational skills training, et cetera. Offering an integrated education and training program was one of the things that I thought was just cool that came out of WIOA law, in the sense of how do we work closer together as title partners and stop duplicating resources and really start to collaborate more instead of trying to compete, because we're servicing a lot of the same clients. Many employers have, especially in the manufacturing space, have people who work for them who don't have high school diplomas. And so we go in and talk to those manufacturing employers and talk about how we can work with them and work with their current incumbent workers to get HSEDs. And then we move them up into that apprenticeship space and then backfill the workforce with that entry level again. So just trying to help the flow of what I call monies, advance people and get more people into the door, entry level. You have a better skilled workforce when you, of course, have individuals. But I think what's even more important is for in-demand jobs that provide quality jobs. And we all know that people need to sustain their families. Prices is going up and everything is going up. So we're trying to make sure the employers are getting qualified workforce, but also are being able to offer wages that are quality job wages. So increase apprenticeships. As we know, Wisconsin is well known. WRTP is well known for the apprenticeship track, but we want to increase apprenticeships in all industries, not just ours, but we want to make sure that those pathways are available for people and they're aware of that when they complete or as they're completing their HSEDs as well. So not only is people being part of this program, but we're also helping each other. If they're just going to HSED, they get exposure to our orientations. If this is another option, but in our local workforce board is help the workforce board say, okay, there's other apprenticeship opportunities, maybe not at WRTP, but with other community-based organizations that are offering apprenticeships, maybe in healthcare or IT, some of those. So the earn while you learn model, seems to be the model that works, especially for adults who have responsibilities of families. Instead of people going into debt, what can we do to help them earn income while they're trying to advance their skills? And that is one of the biggest things that we find. And I saw that there was a couple questions about paid trainings and things of that nature. Those are definitely things that we look into. We have some of our programming that we have talked to other funding sources to try to support individuals while they are receiving. Youth Bill happens to be one of those programs that is a paid training. So that made sense for us to do that because they get wages while they're, earning and learning, both the academic parts of it, as well as the vocational skills part. So that is a win-win-win for everybody. When you talk about a Youth Bill programming and making it all work. There are some places where we still need to grow in that space as far as always looking for paid training, but it isn't always feasible with restrictive funding, but we're always looking for additional funding so that we can continue to offer those paid training opportunities, if at all possible, to really supplement people, because that is half of the reason why a lot of people don't go into programs is because they still have family responsibilities and it's an and still for them versus, it's an or versus an and for a lot of people because they can't afford to stop working. But another thing is many of our programs are offered nights and weekends. We take a conscious look at who do we serve and how do we serve them. So if you do have to work or you do have to be able to flexible your time, then we also have the ability to do some of the work virtual and face-to-face. So we're pretty flexible when we do our programming to try to meet the accommodations of our participants.
Thanks, Tony. And I
No
definitely want
problem.
to honor Baltazar's time. So 2 things I just want to leave you with. I did see a note about the chat, so we're going to answer all the questions at the end. However, I did see Jacob going in and answering some of the questions directly. And when Baltazar and his partners are presenting, I'll also take a look at those as well. But 2 kind of big things that I just want to stress for literacy organizations in particular. It is really challenging sometimes for us to articulate the intersection of our work and workforce development and economic development. And I just want to be very clear that this program has been such a help for me when I look at how can I fund the work that I'm doing as a whole. This piece is really, I think, important for that. And our work deserves that stage because we are the linkage that exists in so many other spaces and kind of the afterthought, if you will, when anyone wants to do anything in the state, right? We want more people in these jobs. Oh, wait, it's a skills issue. Oh, wait, that's linked to education. It's kind of like the route you start kind of going downward. So I think this is a program that's just been really great in that way. The other thing I do want to make sure that I stress, and Tony just said this, is that we adapt this program. So yes, traditionally offered at 16 weeks, but COVID has been eye-opening in terms of how we offer programming. And so we adapt our programming to meet our students' needs. We can't make everyone happy. We don't have the capacity as organizations to do that, but we have adjusted our model with some online stuff. There's a lot of different things that we've done throughout the pandemic that will stick. So I just kind of want to stress that too, but I'm going to hand it over to Baltazar and stop sharing my screen and let him have his time.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much, Holly and Tori. Thank you for that great presentation. Let me know if you can see my screen. I'm gonna share it in just a little bit here. Okay.
Okay, you're in.
You're muted.
Okay, I was not able to unmute myself. I'm like, I don't have a voice anymore. Sometimes we feel like that. Anyway, so thank you very much. My name is Baltazar Tianda Santana, and I'm the Executive Director of the Latino Academy Workforce Development. We are here, just to do the second part, talking about this partnership that we have with the County Highway Department. I'm gonna have my partner, Jerry, introduce himself.
Can you hear me okay? Yep, looks like I'm on. Yes, great. Jerry Manley, I'm the Highway Commissioner at Dane County. And to keep us back on track, I will say that. Been with the county 30 years, and this has been a fantastic partnership. So back to you, Baltazar.
Thank you very much, Jerry. So just, many of you might know about the Latino Academy. In a sense, we provide linguistically and culturally component adult education programming that advances opportunities to ensure that individuals and families thrive socially, economically, and civically. And, I just want to make sure that as we continue having this conversation, we remember that it's for our communities, our families to thrive economically and civically. Our vision is a world where social and economic equity guarantees everyone will reach their full potential. The Today we're here to talk about our partnership with the Highway Department, and that's a little bit more aligned with our transportation program. But one thing that I just want to make sure is that even though we're going to be talking a lot about transportation, about the CDL training, one thing that is very, very important that we work at Latino Academy is we have our workforce tracks, which is transportation, construction, manufacturing, information technology, and early childhood education. And then we have those components that complement all of that, Spanish GED, pre-GED, Spanish adult education, English as a second language, financial education. And then we have a number of other components such as mindfulness, mental health, mentorship. So, when an individual comes to take a class at Latino Academy, it's not just they're just taking a CDL. No, there are a number of areas where the individual enrolls, such as ESL classes, such as GED. I see here some of our partners with the Wisconsin Technical College System, so Christina and Mark. So we partner with them for us to be able to provide some of that, ESL classes, some of that GED support through our IT in the transportation that we have with the Wisconsin Technical College System. And this is just a little bit, Jerry, you want to talk a little bit about the county?
Sure. So I mentioned I've been with the county for 30 years. 18 of those years, I was the poster child for government consolidation. I was the Public Works Department head, the Highway Department head, and the Public Works Director. I also had landfills and solid waste under me. So what my wife liked to say, the man with 3 jobs that got 1 salary. So now I'm just doing the Highway Department. We're responsible for the second most lane miles in the state of Wisconsin besides Milwaukee County. There's a lot that we cover. There's a lot that we do. It's exciting. My background, civil environmental engineering. My family is, I'm from a long line of educators. So it's very important, the training that we do from safety and to be innovative when we train our folks so that they're not complacent in training. To get involved with this program was really something when I looked at Dane County, and probably almost 20 years ago, we started seeing a run where we're going to be short on people that understood what a CDL meant and what it took to be having a CDL license. And that's when I started dreaming up what we were going to do with this program. So, Baltazar.
Thank you very much, Jerry. And we have the mission. Do you want to just add something about the mission of the Dane County Highway Department?
We've, as part of the training program, we've been doing it now. We've had 8 classes, and part of it, as we were doing some team building, was actually modify this in 2019, and it was small groups. But what really was kind of the big difference was, to be responsive and have a diverse work environment equivalent to the communities that we serve, and basically, it was a very homogeneous, white, male-dominated workforce. And in that time period now, we've brought in 26 different folks that maybe were underrepresented and give them a shot here. And it has changed dramatically. So, and we can talk about that.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Jerry. So I just want to pause a little bit before we go and start talking about the program. As an immigrant myself, and many of our students being immigrant, we are always, our goal is to be able to have a place where we can have good jobs. We can have jobs that are going to help us advance in the community. we have chosen to stay, to be here, to be in Wisconsin. So we have the example, these two amazing human beings, Miriam and Laura, both of them who took that program. And, now, I think the sky is the limit. I myself would not know how to drive one of these trucks. And now we have, as of right now, we have four females driving, doing this work in the highway department. So, there are an example that are here that are demonstrating that with literacy, with education, you can reach, your goal. So, I think as we continue moving forward, if you can keep that image in your mind, for us, that's very, very powerful. That represents the work that the Latino Academy of Workforce Development and the Highway Department do in the community, together with many, many partners. Obviously, we could not be able to do this. So how did the partnership begin? Good question. I always like when I am asked this question. So I'm just gonna add a little bit, and then Jerry, you can add something else. What you can add to what I am saying here. So in 2015, we have a meeting in Jerry's office where we tried to figure out. We came together to try to craft from scratch this great internship. There was nothing like this happening in Dane County. So Latino Academy, we wanted to have more folks of color into those jobs. The Urban League the same, and obviously the Highway Department wanted to diversify the workforce. I still remember, spending hours and hours figuring out from how long the training could be, if it was going to be a paid internship, not paid internship, and one thing that was very, very important is that we took the time to be able to deploy this. And it happened once a year together with the Urban League of Greater Madison. We trained 4 to 6 candidates to join the Dane County Highway Department internship. And when I say we train, it's very important to know, we're just showing you what happened once they have received their CDL. But, many of our participants might need to get their GED. Many of the participants need to learn the language for them to be able to be successful in this area. Qualified candidates attend a 6-month internship and this will be a paid internship, after which only qualified candidates get a job with them. This is very, very, very important. I always mention this to folks. Margarita Avila, who is here also joining the call, who works directly with many of the participants, he can attest to this, that if you come through this program, you're not gonna get the job right away. You need to learn, you need to demonstrate, you need to go through all the obstacles, and then you have a final interview. Once you pass that final interview, then you are hired into the Highway Department. Jerry, did I forget anything specifically about the beginning as well?
No, just 3 things I would want to point out. First of all, what's the spark of an idea when you have this? So we do a lot of tours with schools. We get as many as 3,000 people a year that come through and tour the landfill and some of the innovative things we're doing. One of the things I noticed is one of my landfill compactors, one of the operators there was a young man of color. And, one of the schools I went into, they were going to Robot World in the Dells. And instead, we got them convinced to come to the landfill. And it's one of my favorite professional achievements. They came to the landfill and they've come back 22 years in a row. But when they came in, our folks that were underrepresented, children of color, would see this guy driving this 150, 200,000 pound machine and go, how do I get to do that? So I think of that was always something that stuck in my mind. I also knew that I grew up in Portage and I had a lot of friends that were farmers, and there used to be a person on the farm, but you would be a mechanic, you would be able to weld, you would be able to have all kinds of skill sets. And as the family farm started consolidating, you were seeing specialization. So there'd be people that would only do certain pieces of it. And that's when I started thinking, we're not going to get these young men and women from the farms that have this wide range of skills. So let's develop these skill sets. And when we had our first meeting, it's really interesting. Balthazar is very humble, but he's a high energy guy. And I had this idea of how I was going to train people. And there were also folks from the Urban League there that were high energy. And being an engineer, I don't want to sit in meetings all the time. I want to get out there and do something. So they came to my office and there was a whiteboard. And in a half hour, I had sketched out the entire program of what we were going to do for 6 minutes or 6 weeks, 9 weeks, I think was our first program. And, we're off and running. But then we had hurdles to get through too. There were some challenging civil service issues that we had to get through in contracts and how we could actually get this going. So decided to go with the pilot. And I'm so grateful. It's not often you will go to a meeting and there'll be that much energy, everyone going in the same direction. So just want to highlight that piece of it.
Thank you very much, Jerry. And I think, so something that is going to be very, very important. It's something that was important for this partnership to happen is we have all the stakeholders very, very involved, from Jerry, from the County Executive, Joe Parisi, Dr. Ruben Anthony from the Urban League. And we, many times I am invited to do a project that has already been put together. This is an example of something where we put it together. We were invited from the very, very beginning for all of us to be able to evolve this program and to create this program. And, you're going to hear me throughout this to talk about partnerships. And, the partnership that we have with the Highway Department is a very, very important partnership in that regard. Just mentioning some of the goals of our internship. And as you can see, through COVID, we continue doing the training. Here we have one of our classes. We have Margarita Avila, and we have our trainer, Mr. Joe, Mr. Louis Rodriguez. But yeah, I think, the first goal is to create a diverse workforce environment equivalent to the community the Highway Department serves. Second one, to provide participants with the access to family-sustaining careers in the transportation industry. And the number 3 is to build a more inclusive workforce in Dane County. Many of our students, many of our participants will come to us and say, how do I get those jobs in the county? How do I get those jobs in the city? Our families that are looking for stable jobs that can allow some of these individuals to be able to take some vacation. We have Andres, one of our participants. He moved from McDonald's to work to the Highway Department very, very early. He was making $13 an hour. And when he started working at the Highway Department, he was able to take vacation. He was able to have great benefits that would allow him to be able to spend more time with his family.
I would just add to that, Balthazar. I know why a diverse work culture is important to me, but how do I make this important or get people to understand that? So that last point, that the desire to have a workforce that looks more like the folks that you represent is so important. And that was one of our principles, was how do we do that and come at that from another angle? You could talk to people all day long about it, you can mandate it, but we wanted to create super employees, not people that were just at the bare minimums, but to give them a toolbox of skills where they could come in and be really good. So with our main function being snow plowing, when it came time to divvy up crews, people go, I want that man or that woman on my crew because I know they have a really good set of tools in their toolbox. So that was the goal.
Thanks, Jerry. And here we have, this was the first press conference many years ago with our first I think that this was the first cohort. And what do the partnership look like right now? And so I'm just checking on time. How are we doing with time? I know we started just a little bit late. I just want to be sensitive to everybody's time.
I think we're doing okay. We've got about, technically we have about 6 minutes, but if you need a few more, we're good.
Perfect. Thank you. So, the partnership continues very, very strong. We are actually right now working on our 2023 cohort. We're going to be having the recruitment in February. I don't have the exact date, but, important requirements, candidates must have a commercial driver's license in order to be considered for this opportunity, and that will be a commercial driver's license B. And again, Latino Academy will provide that to students who need that. We are now a certified trainer at the federal level for us to be able to provide that. We've been doing that since 2016. Candidate recruitment by the Latino Academy and the Urban League. Candidates are interviewed by the partnership. Accepted candidates move on to the 6-month paid internship. Interns go through a very detailed training program that aims to prepare them for a good job at the Highway Department. MICAT interviews by the Urban League and Latino Academy, and then a final employment interview. Interns become regular employees holding the position of general laborers. So it takes like around 6 months for someone from the moment that they start the internship to the moment that they get that full-time job. And again, the internship, it is a paid internship that we have. These are just some program numbers, total numbers of participants, 28, 92% of program participants made it through the probation period, and of the 92, 96 who made it are still employed with experiences of 6 months to 6 years. So we just, the Highway Department just brought into into their workforce the last cohort, and they've been working for at least 8 months. So again, something that was happening, and we do have participants who have stayed there, and we still see them out there, and we'll continue strengthening the program. This is just Jerry, if you can just explain what's happening here, because obviously I have no idea when it comes to the techniques.
Yeah, they're installing pipeline in the street before that street is repaved, so replacement. And on the right side, learning how to tie equipment down on a trailer safely when you travel, a very important part. On the left side, Laura's running a hydraulic excavator, rubber crack filling in the middle, also the flagging operation, which I heard mentioned in the first presentation. And then, learning how to install the plows and the side plows, the wings. So that's part of it as well. The curriculum has expanded tremendously since we did the brain dump on the whiteboard back in the very first program, whereas there's now 4 volumes, and it expands every year. When the candidates come back at the end, every Friday, there's a rundown. Hey, what did you learn? What's new? What can we do to improve? Just one example, some folks who were not from Dane County, when they get asked to go out and replace a stop sign or get called in on overtime to do that, they didn't really know the locations in Dane County. So that is baked into the curriculum. So the feedback that we get, the other piece that we do use the candidates that are successful and get full-time jobs as trainers, because it's kind of a booster shot for them to come back in and teach folks. And then actually it's a refresher, because in 6 months, you're kind of drinking from the fire hose, exposed to a lot of things, go out and plow, and then come back in and to cruise and don't remember everything. So by reusing them or getting them to come back in and got to be mentors and teachers in the program, it reminds them some of the things they just learned. So it's fantastic.
And then also just adding to remember some of the skills that these folks need to use in the workplace, math skills, reading skills, and many of the participants, English is their second language. So having to understand who understand that blueprint reading and all of that that they put in right there in the at practice.
Yeah. So the landfill is right next to our East Side Highway facility, so they do get exposure into some of the heavier equipment. And this kind of goes into the extra skills that they add into their toolbox. We got to a point where some folks thought, well, I'm only going to be operating equipment, but this is, you might be operating the snowplow for sure, but there's only a limited amount of equipment, even with the amount of road work that we do. A lot of this is labor. So we got to get people used to being on the ground and in the equipment as well. So they get the experience at the landfill as well, all the jobs. So.
So thank you very much, Jerry. And, helping employers, partners create welcoming environments for adult learners. I think being very, very transparent, we had some issues, which is very, very normal. I think many times, one thing that I like about the highway department is many times we send participants into workplaces and they are not ready to welcome them yet. So one thing that the highway department has done a lot is, working to try to figure out how do we even change our mission statement so we can bring a diverse work environment equivalent to communities that we serve. They are doing the work. There are trusted partners in that regard. One thing, having tough conversations. I was able to participate at this event when it comes, that we were talking about being inclusive. How do we are more inclusive in the workplace? How is the highway department more inclusive? You don't mind sharing just 30 seconds of that, Jerry, because I think that's very, very important. Many employers believe that they can just bring the brown person and then everything will be great. No, there's a lot of work that the employer needs to do in order to be able to deal with biases and deal with all the issues that they might have with inclusivity.
This is a challenge. Like I said, this is something that is important to me. I know diversity of thought. I want to bring that all to the table. And this is a group of predominantly white males that was not used to this at all. So, we brought in a number of speakers and then COVID hit. And there was a political situation, in the United States where we became a little bit more divisive during this time as well. So, and you couldn't bring people together to have these talks. So we've worked through this. It hasn't been easy. There's been, days that were tougher than others, but just continuing to work through it. I think, the idea that all of a sudden you're dropping, 21 to 25 folks that look different than everyone else into this workforce. The fact that they're excellent workers, and during COVID, when we were kind of facing work shortages, have people to be there to do that work really helped. But it was a challenge. It was a huge challenge, and we worked on that on a daily basis. And but it's a work in progress, and that work continues. So, and we brought in different speakers as well to help out with that. So,
thank you very much, Jerry. And that's one of the reasons why Latino Academy, we respect this partnership, because we try to figure out solutions so that we can have a more inclusive workforce. Here are just some of our graduates. You see, Laura, and then you see Miriam. We did have the visit of Senator Tommy Baldwin last year, and she met with them. So just something very, very important. This, even once the participants are employed at the highway department, we continue working with them. Margarita is here and she can attest, the number of phone calls that we receive from students, childcare support, transportation, trying to figure out how can we support them so that they can continue in the workplace. The good thing is that many of these participants have been with Latino Academy and with Urban League for many, many years. So we already have that trust, we already have that relationship with them. A lot of work helping them navigating the system. Just a little bit about the work that, a little bit of how Latino Academy works. These are not just jobs. We always tell the students these are careers. So, and sometimes they are straightforward, very linear. Many times are non-linear, but definitely we want to make sure that our participants continue having these careers. Tori, you made reference to a great jobs that can pay, sustainable wages. This will be, this is an example of what our participants are obtaining here. And then just to almost done here, so benefiting employers and local workforce. We offer the region's only bilingual and cultural competent workforce training. This is very, very important. At Latino Academy, all of us are immigrants, all of us have to learn the language. All of us have to figure out the system here. Our training provides industry certified credentials, flexible training schedules lead to 80% average graduation rate, just like, Holly, you also mentioned. Students stay connected and continually upskill and reskill year after year. We have students who come, get the job, then come back. Even some of our students in the highway department. A strong employer education and community partnerships and strong partnerships with local workforce development boards and local department of workforce development. And then just want to mention our strong, the fact that it requires a strong partnerships. Our students, funders, Workforce Development Board of South Central Wisconsin, Wisconsin Technical College System. We have an IT transportation with the Wisconsin Technical College System, and that's really helping us to continue moving a lot of folks into the CDL area. Department of Workforce Development, Wisconsin Literacy, Dane County, City of Madison. Local employers, and two very important things, other community-based organizations and students. Latino Academy, we like to collaborate. We like to bring what other folks are not doing or I do not have the opportunity to do. The number one partner here, our students. We always say this at Latino Academy. Latino Academy, we do not put our students in the center. We partner with the students equally. There are another one of our very important partners. So they also have that responsibility. In order for them to get these jobs, they need to study, they need to work hard. So that's how we see the partnership with them. And we're so grateful that these students have demonstrated just that, a tremendous responsibility to continue moving forward. And I'll just, one more thing, we talk about how does this affect everything. So because of the partnership that Latino Academy started with the Highway Department, because of the support that has been happening, Latino Academy right now, we are moving into creating the Regional Transportation Training Center, which is a long-term solution to ongoing and growing trucker pipeline challenges. So what we want to do is what's happening right now with the Highway Department, we want to expand it so it can cover, a little bit more of our region. But in order for us to do that, we need to, get more funding, more resources. These are some of the partners that we have here. Many of them, the Wisconsin Motor Carriers Association, Wisconsin Movers Association, and the Wisconsin Beverage Association. Again, it's all about partnership and, something that started one day by having a meeting with Jerry, now is evolving into, moving forward so that we can provide this opportunity to our community. And these are just some of our partners. I think that's it. You can meet one of our students here. Thank you very much, everybody.
Well, thank you very much. We've got a few minutes left before our time is up. Shannon, are there questions in the chat?
It looks like Jacob was able to answer most of the questions from, excuse me, the first presentation. We did have one from Tony asking, does your program have a specific name or that you associate with your trainings?
So the Highway Department Internship Program. Yeah, the one that we do. Yeah, very creative. I don't think we spent too much time figuring that out, Jerry.
Yeah, and one of the things, just to correct Belts, in order to get the program, you have to have the Class B permit.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, anything else that we need to cover before we wrap up here? Anything else in the chat?
We have a hand raised for Stacy.
Hey
Please
guys,
unmute.
I think I'm off mute now. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Super. Hey, just had a quick question because I've had this thought in my small rural community as well. Just like taking that first step to assemble the right core team to build a program. So we definitely have shortages in construction. We have shortages in the agriculture sector. Like, how did you guys find the right partners and then ultimately decide to do it? Do you have relationships already? Did you ask to attend a board meeting or a leadership meeting at those employers? Just looking for an idea to get past concept into engagement.
Well, sorry, you want to go?
Yeah, I think for me, just really quick, I think it takes an idea, but then it takes those stakeholders who are going to be pushing this through many difficult hurdles. You know, so I think with us, you know, the Dane County, the Urban League, and at the same time, we also need extra partners. You know, the workforce development, we need Wisconsin literacy, Wisconsin technical college system, because we do need funding for this to happen. You know, so again, it's not just about the idea. The idea needs feed, and feed is money many times, if not all the time.
Holly, did you have anything that you wanted to add to that, or Tony?
I was just going to tell Stacy that she can reach out to me. I have talked with some other literacy organizations, not only in Wisconsin, but throughout the country, just about like troubleshooting and thinking about what that could look like. And then also, like, I don't want to go into it right now, but like what resources you're already connected to. I don't want to make assumptions one way or the other. So I think it's really individual to your organization, but I have thoughts and ideas if you'd like to reach out. I'll put my email in the chat.
Wonderful. Well, we have a
I
couple more
saw
minutes.
your question. Is it Janet? Is Janet still there? Am I saying it right?
This is
Yes,
Shannon.
hi.
Did you? Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think you're seeing the same question I am, Tony. Janet asked you a question about being in Marinette, correct?
Yes, we are currently working with Marinette Marine and Finicateri up in that area and using apprenticeship as a recruitment tool. So we are working with them to establish with the Department of Workforce Development and Bureau of Apprenticeship Standards what an apprenticeship would look like for them as an employer. And we're helping with the recruitment of people into that apprenticeship as WRTP Big Step, and offering the training that's necessarily that they're looking for those individuals to come in at that entry level. So this is definitely a groundbreaking way to get into shipbuilding in those spaces. Yep, that's what we're doing. So we are in that area. We don't have an office necessarily, but we have staff that is housed up that way.
Wonderful. Anything else that you'd all like to ask, or any of our presenters, anything that you might want to add to what you've already said, which by the way has been fabulous. Thank you.
I just
If
want
I
to
may
add,
just, go ahead, Jerry.
yeah, just very quickly. You know, our trainer was on the road. He mentioned the woman that he was driving, and she had to actually plow out by the scales on the interstate. And he asked her if she could do it in training, and she said, yeah. She did a fantastic job. They pulled in to stop to get lunch, and she was getting out of the truck, and you know, it was a carload of 3 Latino women. Saw her step out of that plow truck with wings on both sides next to them, and just amazement. And I think This is the first time I've ever been telling this story without tearing up, because when you give people an opportunity, or they do grab that opportunity and do such a nice job, boy, it certainly tells the story better than I can ever tell a story. And you'll notice I'm not in any of these pictures. It's just a great opportunity to, help people and also solve some issues for us as well. So very thankful. And thanks for letting that tell a little bit of the story. Sorry to cut you off.
Love that story. Love that story. Thank you. Tony, did you have a last word?
Oh, no, I just saw that Janet or Jeanette, I don't want to mispronounce her name, also has more questions about Tony's Marinette connection. And so Tony put her email in the chat.
Great.
So Janet or Jeanette, I would just encourage you to maybe reach out to Tony offline, because it sounds like you have a lot of questions about that program in particular. So just wanted to note that Tony did put her email in the chat as well.
Which is just what I was going to say, Marcia. Thank you. If anyone is interested in any of the WRTP components, definitely reach out. We are always looking for partnerships. We're always looking throughout. I mean, our offices are in Madison, Milwaukee, and Racine. However, we are statewide, and we do try to work with all the technical colleges statewide and all of the literacy programs as much as possible. So thank you.
Wonderful.
Thank you for the time.
Thanks, Tony. I can just, if I may say this, I can just second that, obviously, if anybody is interested in having a further conversation about this type of partnerships, please let us know. We're very open to try to figure out and so support any of your efforts. Thanks everybody for this opportunity.
Absolutely. Well, thank you. And thanks to all of our presenters today. This was absolutely fascinating. And I think you're going to get a lot of interest from all the folks who've been here. And I want to thank all of you for attending, welcoming our community of adult learners into their workplaces, which was sponsored by Wisconsin Literacy. The next session is tomorrow morning. The session is Naturalization, How a Literacy Program Can Prepare Applicants for U.S. Citizenship. That'll be at 10 a.m. And if you haven't registered, you'll see the link in the chat. If you enjoyed this session, please join us for the Big Share on Tuesday, March 7th. It's a fun day of virtual events and online giving that will allow Wisconsin Literacy to offer this kind of programming more and more. Also you'll be getting an email from us with a brief survey for you to do. So please check out the chat and we will talk to you tomorrow. Thanks much, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.